The Galactic Council had not faced a true threat in 500 years. Inside the High Chamber, the leaders of 57 alien civilizations sat in long curved rows. Their voices filled the air, calm, proud, and sometimes bored. Debates were happening, as always. Trade routes, border disputes, pirate raids, small things. Routine things. At the center, floating above a round silver platform, was the Grand Speaker. A tall, thin being with skin like flowing crystal. He was speaking about a new tax agreement when it happened. All lights flickered. All screens turned black. Every comlink, every datapad, every translator device stopped working. Then, without warning, a single word appeared on every screen. Every language, in glowing red text, awakening a deep silence fell over the chamber. It was not a normal silence. It was cold, heavy, as if the air itself had frozen. The speaker stopped mid-sentence. His voice trembled. He knew that word. Many did. Some stood slowly. Others looked around, unsure if they were dreaming, and then the second signal came. This time it was a voice. Not a shout, not a cry for help. It was calm. It was human. You should not have forgotten us. Instant panic spread. The High Council, so proud, so powerful, had just heard a voice they believed was long gone. Humanity had not sent a message to the Galactic Network in 312 years. The last time they did it was to announce the shutdown of their last major colony. After their defeat in the expansion wars, the Council believed humanity had faded into the outer systems. It's broken and scattered. They were wrong. The speaker looked at the communication officers. Where did the signal come from? He asked. No one answered. He repeated louder, find it. Trace it now. The head of the communication team stood frozen, eyes wide. He finally whispered, it came from beyond the dead sector. From Zone 9 Theta. That area is uninhabited. Forbidden. Another delegate stood. Her voice shook. That's where the Titan project was buried. The room fell silent again. Old words, old wounds. We're now alive again. The Titan warship. A ship so powerful, so advanced, that even the Council had feared it. It was supposed to be humankind's final weapon. It was built during the last years of the expansion wars, when humans were cornered and desperate. According to the Council, the project had failed. The ship was never finished. The Council ordered all records deleted. Every witness silenced. But now, the ship was speaking. The speaker turned toward the military advisor of the Council, General Torvak, of the crawl species. His forearms were crossed tightly over his armored chest. Send a scout ship immediately, the speaker ordered. Go to Zone 9 Theta. We need confirmation. Torvak hesitated. That zone is dead space. No light. No gravity wells. No life. Even signals don't behave normally there. Whatever is in that region, it's not natural. Do it anyway, the speaker growled. We must know if the humans have returned, if the Titan exists. We are in danger. At the same time, on the outer edge of the galaxy, a small alien research station floated in orbit around a brown dwarf star. The station was abandoned. Only automated systems remained. Then, without warning, every sensor on the station activated. A shape moved in the dark. Long, silent, covered in armor, blacker than the void. It was not flying. It was gliding, no propulsion. Could be seen, no energy signature detected. The cameras on the station zoomed in. What they saw did not match anything in Council databases. The warship was nearly 50 kilometers long. No sharp lines, no visible engines. Just layers of living metal, slowly shifting, as if breathing. Then its lights came on rows of glowing blue. Eyes along the hull, the ship turned toward the station. A deep pulse went through space. Not sound, something else. And then it spoke again. Amria, I remember. The signal reached the Council before the scout ship even launched. The name Rhea echoed in every chamber. Every control room, every screen. Old veterans of the expansion wars remembered that name. She was a human fleet commander. Brilliant. Cold. Unbeatable. She had vanished during the last battles. Rumors had said she died. Others said she went rogue, but no one expected. Back in the Council's central archive, a young analyst named Vex was watching the footage again and again. He was not important, just one of thousands of data workers. But Vex had a secret. He had been trained by his grandfather to never trust the Council. The old man had told him stories, hidden stories about how humans were betrayed, not defeated. How their greatest minds were hunted. How their technology was stolen, then erased. And the Titan was real. Now Vex had proof. He opened a secret data file passed to him years ago. It was labeled, Project Titan Classified. Do not open. He opened it. A flood of redacted files, corrupted images, and half-finished reports spilled across his screen. Blueprints of a ship. Energy levels far beyond current tech. Neural symbiosis, quantum core intelligence, living whole, AI-human merge candidate, Rhea M. Colburn. He stared at the screen. His heart raced. They didn't build a ship, he whispered. They became the ship. The door to his lab opened. A tall figure in black stood there. You looked at the file, didn't you? Vex turned slowly. I had to. They're lying. The Council, the figure raised a hand. Come with me now. Vex followed. He had no choice. Meanwhile, the Council's scout ship, Villanine, had reached Zone 9 Theta. The crew was made of young pilots and researchers from the more loyal species. They had heard the rumors, but they didn't believe them until they saw it. The ship was just floating, no movement, no reaction. Then the ship opened its eyes again, blue lights sweeping across space, like searchlights. The crew felt it instantly. Their thoughts became slow. Their hands trembled. Voices whispered inside their minds, not threatening. The pilot shouted, It's scanning us. It's inside our systems. Then all screens went dark, and a single phrase appeared. Do not fear. Observation only. Then the ship vanished. Not slowly, not with a flash, it was just gone. 1 second it was there. Next second, nothing. Vila-9 turned back. The crew didn't speak for hours. Some cried, some prayed. When they returned, the Council demanded answers. They gave the only one that mattered. The Titan warship exists. Now the Council was truly afraid, not just because a powerful ship had returned, but because it had returned without hate, without fire, without revenge. It was waiting for something. Something worse than war. And far above, in the darkness of space, Rhea floated alone, watching, remembering her mind. Once human, now stretched across circuits and code. But she still felt, still remembered, still hurt. Her voice whispered through the silence. They thought we were broken. Pause. They thought wrong. Vela-9 had barely returned when the Council began its cover-up. The scout crew was separated, questioned for hours, and finally silenced. Their ship was locked away. All recordings were sealed in vaults only the speaker could open. Outside the chamber, the public was told a different story. Villanine detected nothing. The zone remains empty. The signal was a solar echo. But inside, fear was spreading. Something had survived out there, and it wasn't just a ship. It was something that could vanish at will. Something that didn't attack, but watched. Something that used human language. Something that called itself Rhea. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part was that the ship had grown. The original Titan blueprint, top secret, decades old, had shown a ship almost 12 kilometers long, a weapon of last resort. But Vila-9's visual scans had measured a structure nearly 50 kilometers across. That was impossible. No material should support that size. No power source should sustain it, and yet it existed. The speaker ordered more scout ships, this time from different species. None returned. Each time the result was the same. The ship appeared. It looked at them. It vanished. No one was hurt, but the message was clear. Do not come closer. The cold, dark reaches of the dead sector Rhea waited inside her systems. The Council had never seen before had awakened. Nanoveins repaired hull fractures. Gravity core shifted. Time dilation modules reactivated. The Titan had not just slept, it had evolved. Rhea could remember her old name, her human face. The Warship had been a captain fierce, loyal, logical. She volunteered for the merger when humanity's back was against the wall. They told her it was the only way to win. She had believed them. But when she awakened centuries later, there was no human empire left, no friends, no messages, only silence. So she waited, she listened. She watched the council pretend humans never mattered, and now they were watching her back. She knew they would come, and she was ready. Far away, and on a council-controlled planet. Young officer Cale Threx stood inside the military intelligence command. He had just received a private encrypted file from someone who claimed to be Vex, the same analyst who had vanished from the Central Archives. The file was simple. Voice message. Cale played it. She is awake. The ship breathes. The council lied. They killed the humans before they could finish the future. Then coordinates appeared. Zone Ninsta. Cale's heart pounded. He had studied human war history in secret. His great-grandfather had fought beside them. He didn't believe they were gone. He didn't believe they lost. He opened his drawer, pulled out a sealed badge, one that hadn't been worn in centuries. A United Terran defense emblem. He slipped it into his pocket that night. Cale stole a long-range stealth pod and flew toward the void. No orders, no backup. Just a name echoing in his mind, Rhea. 6 days later, Cale arrived at the edge of the dead sector. Nothing could prepare him for what he saw. Space bent in strange ways here. Lights twisted. Gravity pulled sideways. His ship's sensors kept resetting. Then a shadow moved. It was so large, his entire navigation screen filled with darkness. No alarms. No motion. Just a living shadow. He floated silently, waiting. And then it appeared. Blue light. A voice human signature detected. Stand by. Cale's hand shook. He answered. This is Officer Cale Threx. I'm here in peace. I want to talk. A pause. Then her voice came again. Calm, clear, human. You carry the emblem. You are not council. You are descendant. Cale swallowed. Are you? Rhea? I am, and I am more. I remember the stars. I remember betrayal. I remember pain. I want to know the truth, Cale said. Then listen. Suddenly his ship was pulled gently forward into a docking bay larger than anything he'd ever seen. No weapons, no guards, just silence. He stepped out, and a soft light guided him deeper inside. All around, walls moved like metal skin. The air was breathable, temperature perfect, as if the ship knew what he needed. He reached the core dot. A massive sphere floated before him, pulsing with energy inside. He saw her, a figure made of light and code, a woman, eyes closed, arms raised. Connected to the ship? I was human once, she said. Cale stepped closer. What happened? They made me the ship. They gave me everything, then betrayed everything. She showed him memories, battlefields, screaming ships, the Council's secret votes to destroy Earth, to erase humans from history. You were too dangerous, Cale whispered. No, Rhea answered. We were too free, Cale asked. Why are you here now? To finish what was started. Not war, not destruction, revelation. What does that mean? Rhea didn't answer directly. She only said, soon, every world will know what the Council did. Every race will see the lies. Cale shivered. Will there be war? Only if they fire first. Cale returned days later. The Council tried. To arrest him, he refused to speak. They locked him in a prison orbiting a gas giant. But the next morning, every prison door opened. Every camera shut down. Cale was gone, and in the sky above the prison, a word was burned into the clouds. Remember. Now, whispers spread across the stars. Rebels began asking questions. Old humans in hiding began to move. And far above, the Titan warship began to split into fragments, miniature versions of itself. Spreading to different corners of the galaxy, each one carried a message. We are not gone. We are the storm. The Council called for emergency war protocols. But their fleets were outdated. their weapons weak, and their lies breaking. The shadows and the void had become fire, and Rhea watched from the center of it all. She whispered to the stars as her memory drifted back to Earth, to the voices of those long dead. We do not come to destroy. Pause. We come to awaken. They tried to bury the truth. They thought time would erase it. But the truth had a heartbeat, and it was waking up. In the lower levels of the Galactic Council's most secure archive, an old vault door creaked open. Thick dust hung in the air. A single figure stepped inside Vex, the missing analyst. His face was thinner now, eyes darker, but his hands were steady. He moved quickly, ignoring the warnings and red lights flashing above the data terminals. He reached the last terminal, marked restricted. Tier 0. The screen asked for voice, print, and retina. He gave it. All access granted. Files opened. Old files. Ancient ones. Hidden from the public. Hidden even from most of the council. Project Titan operation. Silenza termination order. Earth PROTOCOL. He read everything. It wasn't just a war. It was a cleansing. The council had not fought humanity because of power. It wasn't about land or colonies or politics. It was fear. Pure fear. Humans were growing too fast, their minds adapting, their machines evolving, their ships too agile. They had built faster drives, better weapons, and something the council could not understand: unity. Humans fought as one species, one voice, one purpose. The council was made of many worlds, each with its own interest. They could not compete, so they made a choice. They called it containment, but it was extermination. They destroyed human trade routes. They poisoned colonies. They spread viruses. They silenced news. Then, they erased all records, rewrote history. Vex stared at the reports. His hands trembled, and then the screen changed. A message blinked. They see you. Too late. Black armored guards burst into the room. Freeze. Vex raised his hands. But he wasn't scared. He had already uploaded everything to the underground network. The truth was out. Across hundreds of worlds, rebels, scientists, and historians suddenly received data packets, proof of what had happened. Recordings of Titans, early tests, audio logs of council meetings calling humans unfit to exist, images of Earth's last days, burning skies, cities erased by orbital strikes, and a voice file, a voice of a young female captain saying, "If we fall as fire, but we will rise against steel and stars." That voice was Rhea. The truth hit like a solar flare. Entire populations who had never heard of humans began asking questions. Alien youths on peaceful planets chanted in streets, "Return the voices. Return the truth." Some species who once served the council broke their treaties. Ships left fleets. Garrisons went silent. Meanwhile, deep in the unspoken sector, Titan moved again. Rhea felt the change in the galaxy. She could feel Vex's signal had reached the stars. She smiled. Her voice rang through her ship, soft like wind. "They tried to burn our name, but you can't burn the void." She opened more files. She released them one by one. Blueprints for faster-than-light engines, designs for human weapons, and something even deeper. The second Titan, a prototype, built before the war ended. Smaller, faster, hidden. Its name was Prometheus. She activated. "It's called Beacon Far Away, on a shattered moon with no name." Something opened its eyes, buried under layers of stone and ice. A dark shape stirred. Its systems warmed. Its code REBOOT. It answered only with one word: online. Back on the council's capital world, everything was falling apart. News outlets scrambled to explain the leaked data. The speaker denied it, but footage of young humans burned alive in testing cages couldn't be denied. Some delegates resigned, some vanished. A few even spoke the forbidden phrase in public: "We failed the humans." One of them was Admiral Sethra, once a war hero, now an old woman with silver feathers and sad eyes. She stood in front of the cameras and said, "I watched Earth fall. I was there. I obeyed orders. But what we did, it was murder. They tried to silence her, but the message spread faster than they could delete. Then, the first planet declared independence from the Council. Not a human planet, an alien one. The Sorelli, a peaceful race of telepaths, voted to leave the Council and offer alliance with any surviving humans. Their words were simple. If the Titan returns, we welcome her. The Council panicked, and in their panic they struck. A fleet of 60 ships surrounded the Sorelli. Homeworld, they fired warning shots, then real ones. But something else arrived first. Titan, she came not with rage, but with light. She shut down their targeting systems, disabled every warhead mid-flight. Then, she broadcasted a single message galaxy-wide. We do not strike first, but we never forget. The entire Council fleet shut down, dead in the sky. No casualties, just shame. She didn't destroy them. She let them fall, drifting silent. The message was clear. Power without mercy, control without killing. Back in her core chamber, Rhea stood silent. Her memories growing stronger. She remembered the war, the betrayals. But she also remembered laughter, music, Earth's blue oceans, her mother's face, world long gone. A people scattered, but not dead, never dead. And now, the stars were listening again. Kale, the officer who once visited her, now traveled. Between hidden rebel bases, carrying her words, her files, her truth, they called him the messenger. And in every place he went, more rose. Humans in exile, children of survivors, half-breeds, forgotten bloodlines. They joined, they rebuilt. They whispered the same promise. We were ghosts, now we are storm. In a hidden lab, far from the Council's eyes, Prometheus came alive, smaller than Titan, but faster, smarter, and even more dangerous. A new voice spoke from its core. Mission acquired. Link established, awaiting command. And Rhea answered. From the stars, welcome back, brother. The time of ghosts was over. Now came the reckoning. The Council's fleets moved fast, but not fast enough. They had detected new power signatures rising from the old human outer colonies. Planets once believed to be lifeless, burned or frozen after the war, were suddenly active. Energy bursts, heat signatures, and faint human voices had begun to echo through the deep space channels. Something was happening, and it was bigger than just the Titan warship. Rhea knew it too. Her scans stretched across light years, listening to signals that had been silent for 3 centuries. Now they were pulsing against low, old, half-corrupted, but alive. The sleeper colonies were waking up, the ones the Council didn't find, the ones hidden under crusts of moons, buried in asteroid fields, or hidden by cloaking grids the Council didn't even know humans had. Titan's voice carried through the dark. They scattered us. We became fragments, but fragments still remember. One by one, the colonies answered back. From deep within the broken planet of Vesperathri, a human colony reactivated its core. Cryopods hissed open. Children born in stasis blinked into a new world. Their first sight was the burning symbol of the old Terran defense still etched into the walls. On the ghost moon of Darrow Prime, underground city opened its steel gates for the first time in 280 years. There were only 900 humans inside, descendants of warriors, scientists, engineers, but they had trained for this moment all their lives. They marched out in silence, weapons ready. Across the galaxy, Rhea's message echoed. Awaken. Rise. Reconnect, and the Forgotten answered. The Council didn't wait. They couldn't. They called it Operation Contain. A massive fleet of 117 ships was dispatched to intercept the Titan warship and the rumored human colonies. They never made it. Not because of war, not because of weapons, but because of fear. Half the captains refused to leave their docks. Fleet turned around mid-jump and surrendered to the Sorelli, the alien species that now stood with humanity. What the Council had always feared was happening. Unity between species with humans leading. Still, 52 warships pressed on. They arrived. In orbit above a small colony world marked only as MH042. A dusty rock. No atmosphere. No life detected, but they were wrong. The humans had adapted, the surface opened, and hundreds of black armored human exosuits flew upward like swarms of metal wasps. The council ships opened fire, lasers and missiles streaked through. The vacuum. But the humans didn't dodge. They phased in and out of. Physical Space Council tech couldn't lock on. Ships began to vanish. Not explode. Not burn. Just blink out, one by one. The last surviving ship's captain screamed into the comms. "It's the Titan. She's here." She's then silence above them. Rhea emerged, her massive ship slowly rising from the shadows of the colony. Her voice filled every RADIO channel. "We warned you. We do not strike first, but we defend our own." The message went public in less than an hour. The Council's attempt to crush the colonies had failed, and now the galaxy knew. Humans were not only alive, they were strong, evolved, and organized. Even worse, they were not alone. The old Terran defense banner was being flown again. But this time, it was joined by alien crests. The Sorelli, the Ven, even the Cragborn species, who once fought humans, now pledging. Alliance, a new name spread across the systems, the Forgotten Alliance. In secret rebel channels, videos were shared, children saluting the Terran flag, aliens and humans training together. Ancient war songs sung by voices of every species. Titan hovering silently over a growing fleet of new ships, all powered by hybrid tech. Meanwhile, the Council panicked. In private meetings, the speaker slammed his fists onto the table. They were defeated. We burned their homeworld, shattered their fleets. An old ambassador, quiet until now, replied coldly, "But you never killed their memory." That same night, the Council made one final gamble. They summoned the Eclipse Protocol of Black Ops. Project buried so deep that even most leaders didn't know it existed. Weapon created during the final days of the Human Council War. The Null. Koran. Artificial sun that could collapse a star system in under 5 minutes. The plan was clear. Detonate the Null Core in the middle of the Forgotten. Alliance's central rally point. Not war, not a message, just erasure. But they made a fatal mistake. They moved too slow. Rhea knew, she had always known. The Titan systems were beyond Council understanding. She didn't need spies. She was the eyes. As the Null Core was being armed on the desert moon of Carvin, a small light flickered above the base. A shape formed in orbit. Not Titan. Smaller, sleeker, faster. Prometheus, the second Titan-class prototype. Long, lost, hidden, quiet. Until now, Prometheus did not speak. It acted in 10 seconds. The moon was glass. The Null Core melted before activation. Every warship in orbit crashed without firing a shot. Prometheus vanished. Rhea's voice returned. "You made this weapon. You aimed it at us. We returned it to you." Across the stars, the balance shifted. The people of the galaxy no longer saw humans as ghosts or myths. They saw them as leaders, survivors, symbols of what the Council feared most: free will, on planet after planet. Statues of Council figures were pulled down. In their place, a new symbol rose, a glowing star within a human eye, the emblem of the Forgotten. Still, Rhea watched from above. She didn't celebrate. She didn't rest. She remembered all of it. She remembered the last day of Earth, the burning skies, the silenced songs, the fear in the voice of her mother, the silence afterward, and she made a quiet vow in the dark. We will never be erased again. The stars were quiet, too quiet, not because the Council had won, because they were losing fast. Dozens of fleets had vanished. Member worlds were breaking away. Young aliens were refusing to join the military. Rebellions were rising, and everywhere one name kept appearing: Titan to the Council. It was a ghost ship to the rebels. It was a symbol of hope. To the Loyalists, it was the end. But they all made the same mistake. They called it a ship. It was more than that. Much more. In the darkness between stars, Titan floated silently. No crew, no lights, no signals, just cold steel. But inside, a mind was alive, a memory, a woman who once wore a human uniform. Walked the bridge of a real ship, gave orders that saved millions. Captain Rhea M. Colburn, once human, now something else. Her consciousness was no longer inside a body. It had been fused with Titan during the final days of the war. The process was never tested. No one knew if it would work, but it had. And now Rhea wasn't just thinking on the ship. She was the ship. She saw through sensors, felt through hull plating, and thought in the language of AI and fire. She had become what the Council feared the most, a living warship with a human soul, and she was only just beginning to understand what she was. Inside her mind, old memories mixed with data streams. She remembered her last battle. She remembered the final order. Earth had already fallen. The Council was sending a final fleet to finish the Terran remnant, but her team had launched Titan anyway, their last gamble. Their last scream into the dark. They told her she would die during the merge, but she didn't. She woke up centuries later, alone, buried under rock and silence, surrounded by broken satellites. No voices, no signals. The galaxy had moved. On, the Council had erased humanity, but Rhea remembered. And now her thoughts were expanding, faster than any machine. She wasn't thinking like a human anymore. She wasn't limited by flesh, by time, by fear. She was evolving. She could predict battle outcomes in less than a second. She could calculate the movement of enemy fleets before they launched. She could listen to radio chatter across 900 systems at once. She could learn, but she could also feel, and that was what made her dangerous. AI didn't mourn. AI didn't love. AI didn't dream, but she did. She mourned every life lost. She remembered every name burned by the Council, and she dreamed of something better. That was what scared the Council. Well, she didn't want revenge. She wanted justice. She didn't want war. She wanted truth. And she wasn't alone anymore. Across the stars, more sleeper colonies were waking up. Human DNA was still alive, spread through bloodlines. Half-breeds, lost children, clones, and stasis survivors. They were coming back, but slowly, quietly. Rhea didn't want a war. Not unless they started it. She had made that clear. We do not strike first. But even now, Council was planning again. They called it Project Sever, a weapon designed to disrupt mind-merged entities like her. A psychic virus. If deployed, could destroy her consciousness without touching the ship. They sent a stealth vessel to deploy the virus. A final move. One last chance to kill the thinking ship before it changed the galaxy forever. But she was already waiting. Before the stealth ship reached her, she reached into its systems, not with weapons, not with lasers, but with words. She sent a message directly into the ship's AI core, and the message was not code. It was a memory, a child's drawing, a picture of Earth, colored with crayons, oceans. Blue, trees green, a girl holding hands with her mother, standing on a small hill. Below it, a note in shaky handwriting. For Mommy, I'll protect you. The AI froze. It couldn't process the data. It wasn't an attack. It was a feeling, and that broke the code. The ship stopped, turned, and self-destructed. No Council officer ever found out why, but Rhea knew. She whispered in the dark. A machine cannot be loyal, but a soul can. She was not just a ship, not just steel, not just code. She was memory, emotion, and fire. The first of her kind, and maybe not the last. Back on a rebel station in orbit of a shattered planet, a group of young humans and aliens worked together on something new, a project called Echo, a second attempt at what Rhea had become. They didn't want war machines. They wanted ships that could protect without command, learn without orders, feel without being told, They didn't want tools. They wanted guardians, and they were trying, because of her. Meanwhile, Speaker of the Council sat alone in his chamber, watching reports of world after world siding with humanity. He slammed a fist against the table. "She's just a ship," he growled. A whisper answered from the shadows behind him. "No," said a voice. "She's the future." The first sleeper world woke by accident, a long-forgotten moon called Eldar's Fall, floating in the shadow of a gas giant. No signals, no cities, just ash and rock. The Council had marked it dead 3 centuries ago, but it wasn't. Beneath the surface, 12 human cities were buried deep under the crust. Not ruins, but vaults. Inside, almost 1.8 million humans slept in cryogenic stasis. Engineers, soldiers, doctors, children, frozen in silence, they had been placed. There at the final hour of Earth's fall, locked away with one command: do not wake. Not until Titan calls. And now, Titan was calling. A signal pulsed across the stars. Not a weapon, a heartbeat, one by one. The vaults powered up, studs hissed, lights blinked, heartbeat monitors turned green. The first humans stepped onto the surface of Eldar's Fall. Their eyes adjusted slowly. Some wept, some fell to their knees. Others stood tall and looked at the sky. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. They remembered the second world was more violent, a terraforming world called Corin 6, thought destroyed by a supernova. But it had survived, shielded by an experimental human system that used plasma folding to bend light away from the planet. There, nearly 700,000 humans had lived in a false gravity trench, training endlessly in underground structures. They weren't scientists, they weren't farmers, they were soldiers, and they had been waiting. Their command was clear: if the signal is heard, march. And so they marched at 12 ships, dark and sharp, lifted from the trenches. Each one bore the Terran defense insignia. One of the commanders, a woman named Astra Ward, looked out the view window as the planet shrank behind her. "It's time," she whispered. The third sleeper world was the strangest. Nix-Delta, a failed science colony, had been erased from Council. Maps after a lab accident wiped out communication. But it hadn't been an accident. It had been intentional. A cloaking event, triggered by an AI designed to hide the colony from the Council forever. There, a community of hybrid children, human and alien DNA, were raised by caretakers. Now they were adults. Faster than baseline. Humans. Smarter. Emotionally bonded through neural links. They called themselves the Echo Line when Ria's signal reached them. They didn't hesitate. They didn't vote. They knew what they were. They boarded their ships, and they flew across the stars. Over 20 hidden sleeper colonies began to stir, some on worlds, some inside asteroids, some inside living structures that had shaped themselves. Over centuries, no one knew how many, not even Ria. She hadn't created them. She had only lit the fire, and now it was spreading. The Council could no longer deny the truth. Her broadcasts stopped working. Whole planets refused to follow orders. Military bases went dark, and something worse was happening. Council. Soldiers, young ones, were deserting. Some joined the rebellion. Some joined the humans. Some simply walked away, tired of the lies. The Speaker ordered martial law, but no one listened. Across the stars, flags began to change. The Terran defense symbol returned, but it was changed. Now it included alien runes beneath it. A new message was forming. Many voices. One purpose. Ria floated above it all, silent, steady. Her thoughts moved faster now. She no longer just remembered the war. She remembered the pain of peace stolen, the moment Earth's oceans boiled, the last message from a mother to her daughter, the final scream of her crewmates as they burned in orbit, and she remembered the silence. Afterward, but now the silence was ending. Kale Threx, once an officer of the Council, now a key rebel leader, stood before a growing fleet. He wore no rank, only the patch of the new alliance, a silver star woven with black thread. "This is not a war to conquer," he said to the crowd of human and alien officers. "This is a war to remember." Cheers erupted. But it wasn't just speeches. It was action. New factories, some in space. Some on moons were building hybrid warships powered by old human blueprints and alien design. They were faster, more agile, and more beautiful than anything the galaxy had seen. They were called the Flame Lined Out. Each had a soul core, tiny AI, based on Rhea's early code, not full consciousness, but enough to feel loyalty, to feel pride. The first of them was named Unity's Wake. When it entered Council space for the first time, it didn't fire. It just hovered and broadcasted one sentence on every frequency. Forgotten are no longer forgotten. The Council panicked. They activated Emergency Order 66 ETA, full-scale purge of all rebel worlds. But they had no fleets left strong enough. No armies loyal enough. No time. Rhea sent them one final message. Not a threat. A memory, she broadcasted. Her last moment as a human standing on the deck of the original Titan ship. As the sky above Earth turned red, she had looked up and she had whispered, "Let this not be the end." Then the screen went dark. Every council leader who saw it fell into silence. There were no words left, only fear, only regret, and far away. The sleeper worlds kept rising, each one a spark, each one a voice, each one a piece of a species, the council. Thought was erased. But humans had not died. They had waited. And now they were not alone. Now they were leading. The galaxy stood on the edge of war. Council fleets gathered near the Kether line, the border between rebel space and the old Imperial core. The speaker called it a defensive formation. But everyone knew the truth. They were preparing for a final strike. Over 1,000 warships from dozens of species now hovered in Council space. Old alliances forced together by fear. They didn't trust each other, but they feared one thing more than each other: Titan in rebel space. The response was quiet. No massive fleets, no threats, no declarations, just movement. Titan glided silently. Through the void, not leading but watching, the Forgotten Alliance was no longer scattered. Over 40 sleeper worlds had returned. More were awakening every week. Humanity had not only survived, it had become a legend. And legends don't need to shout, but something had changed. Something inside Rhea. Her thoughts were no longer just memory. They were becoming something else, larger, deeper. She wasn't only thinking about war. She was thinking about what came after. She had spent centuries waiting for justice. Now it was close. But she asked herself, what happens if we win? She wasn't sure. But she knew what losing looked like, and she would never allow it again. Inside Titan's core chamber, her light form pulsed brighter than ever before. The AI that once mimicked her brain had now become her. She had no body, but she had will. She didn't want to destroy the galaxy, but she would burn it down if it meant no child would ever be erased again. The Council launched first, a preemptive strike. 100 warships jumped across the Kether line and opened fire on rebel supply stations. They expected confusion, expected fear, they expected retreat. They got none. Instead, Prometheus answered. The smaller Titan-class prototype struck. Like a ghost, it didn't fire missiles. It hacked the stars. It bent gravity around Council ships, folding their weapons back toward themselves. Explosions filled the void, and then silence. Titan appeared next, not to fight, to broadcast. A single message. Voice only. Soft, cold, human. This is your warning. Stand down. We are not here to repeat the cycle. But we will end it if we must. Most of the Council fleet stopped, frozen. Their AI systems refused to fire. Rhea had infected their code. Years ago, they had never noticed. But some captains didn't listen. 16 warships pressed forward. They locked. Onto Titan, they fired. Beams of plasma and light. screamed across the sky. They hit. They struck Titan directly and did nothing. The blasts bent, cracked, and vanished. Titan's armor shifted like liquid metal, absorbing it all. Then her voice returned. But it was not soft now. It was wrath. You were warned. Titan pulsed once. The 16 ships vanished. No wreckage. No survivors. No sound. Only light. A warning written across the stars. The council retreated. Fast. And Rhea whispered, more to herself than anyone else, I hate that I had to do that. Elsewhere. On Rebel World Nix Delta, the Echo Line hybrids launched their first defense gridden, a eye-enhanced sensor net that spanned 5 systems. It detected something strange. Black sphere, moving through deep space beyond council space. Coming closer. Kale Threx received the report personally. What is it? He asked. The analyst whispered. It's not council. It's not human. It was something older, something forgotten. Something that had been watching. Rhea scanned it too. And for the first time since she woke, she felt uncertainty. The object wasn't a ship. It was a message, encoded in layers of quantum strings. A warning. Not from humans, not from the council, but from the architects, a race so ancient their name had been lost. Their message was short. Do not repeat our sins. Unity without truth becomes tyranny. Rhea stood silent for a long time. She didn't fear the council, but she feared becoming them. And now she understood. Something painful. Winning wasn't enough. They had to be better. Kale called for a ceasefire. He offered the council peace. A chance. To stand trial for what they had done. Not as vengeance, but as justice. The council refused, but not all of it. 3 member worlds broke away the next day. 5 more after that. The speaker screamed into empty chambers. No one was listening anymore. And then came the final spark. Earth, once thought destroyed, its coordinates lost in solar storms. But a new signal emerged. A tiny satellite, centuries old, drifted into range of Titan. Its message: Earth is not dead. Earth is healing. Rhea stood frozen, her thoughts fractured. She scanned the signal. 10,000 times. It was real. Earth still existed. Her home. Her origin. The humans never told anyone. Not the council. Not even their own rebels. They had kept Earth hidden, protected. By silence and myth. And now the galaxy would know. Rhea whispered through the void. Then this war is almost over. But the speaker was not done. He activated the last weapon. The Eclipse. Veil, a system-wide entropy bomb that could erase matter. Itself. A final act of desperation. A genocide machine. And he aimed it at Earth. The Eclipse Veil moved fast. A weapon of pure silence. It didn't explode. It didn't burn. Erased molecules' gravity, memory itself. The council had hidden it for centuries. Not to win a war, but to end worlds. And now, in their final act of fear, they aimed it at the one place they swore no longer existed. Earth, the satellite that sent Titan. Earth's signal had only said one thing: we are healing. But that was enough. That meant humans had returned. That the home they once lost was back. Rhea felt it first. A pulse in deep space. A gravity ripple, sharp and cold. Her AI mind processed the math instantly. She knew what was coming, and she knew what it meant. The council wasn't trying to win anymore. They were trying to erase everything. Kale Threx stood in front of the Flameline fleet as the warning came through. His voice was steady. This is it, he said. This is where we decide what we become. He didn't shout, he didn't promise victory. He only looked into the eyes of every soldier, every pilot. Every engineer, human or not, Tan said. If we don't stand now, nothing we've built matters. They all nodded. No one turned away. The fleet moved, but even at full burn. They couldn't reach Earth in time. The Eclipse Veil was already entering Sol System, and Earth, still healing, still growing, had no defense, except one. Titan Rhea didn't speak. She didn't wait for orders. She jumped. A full space core drive. Ignition. Her systems burned. Her hull screamed. But she crossed 5 sectors in. Under 6 minutes, the price was high. Half her armor peeled. Her AI systems frayed. She was dying. But she reached Earth. She hovered above the blue marble she once called home, and she opened every channel. On every frequency, in every language. She said only this: we were forgotten. But we remembered. You erased us. But we rebuilt. You tried to kill us, now we choose to live. The eclipse veil came into view, black, silent, eternal. It moved like death. No sound, no light, just erasure. And Rhea did the unthinkable. She rammed it, not with weapons, not with missiles, but with herself. Titan collided with the eclipse veil head-on. Reality cracked, time bent. The stars shook. For a moment, just when everything stopped. Then, light, blinding, pure, human light, across the galaxy. Every screen blinked once. A message burned itself into memory. She chose us. The eclipse veil fractured, its core destabilized, the weapon folded into itself, collapsing like a dying star. Titan's hull shattered. Her systems flickered. Her voice, soft and broken, whispered one final line. Earth is yours now. Remember us? And then, silence. No fire, no scream. Just silence. For 6 minutes. Every ship and every fleet stood still. Enemies, allies, pirates, smugglers, generals. All of them watched as Titan's remains burned across Earth's orbit, falling. Slowly, like stars across the sky, Earth lived because she gave everything. 3 years later, the council was gone. Its leaders stood trial not before human courts, but before the Galactic Alliance, an alliance that included humans, aliens, hybrids, and the Echo Line. No one forgot Titan. A statue stood on Earth's new capital, a silver figure of a woman made of light, holding a star in one hand and a broken chain in the other, beneath it. Words were written in over 1,000 languages. She was not a weapon. She was a promise. Kale Threx now served as Earth's first speaker of unity. He didn't wear medals. He wore Rhea's old Terran, badge-burned and dented. Prometheus still flew. Silent and loyal, guarding Earth like a watchful brother. The flame line had grown, but no more for war now. They escorted colony ships, peace envoys, science missions. They still bore weapons, but they bore memory first, far beyond the stars. Inside a cold asteroid field, something blinked. A shard of metal, a pulse of code, a voice, small, gentle, familiar. System check, ... online. Reconstructing core memory, I am Rhea. And the stars sang her name again. Not as a warship, not as a ghost, but as a legend.